Hello and welcome to Gabbit Media. This is a video to show you how to bake normal maps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a plane. So Shift A to add a mesh, plane, and there's my plane. And I'm going to add my normal map to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, Shift D to duplicate, and just move it up slightly so you can see the different planes there. And I'm going to create a sculpt on here and bake it to the bottom one. I'll show you what I mean. So let's subdivide this with a multi-resolution modifier. So subdivide it a few times. I'll change it to simple so it keeps its shape. I'll subdivide it up to 6. And then I'll go into sculpt mode down here. Okay, so let's sculpt something like this. And as you can see, it looks raised up. And I want in fact, let's change that in object mode so it's smooth, so it looks a little bit nicer. There we go. And I want this top one to become a normal map for this bottom one. So it looks like this, but it's just a normal map, so it's just in the textures. I'll just apply that for now. I'll go into cycles. You can actually bake straight from your multi-resolution modifier if you're using Blender Render, but I'm going to show you how to do it in cycles. So I'll change this to the node editor and this one to the UV editor. Okay, so on our one that we're going to bake to, make sure it's unwrapped. So into edit mode, press U and unwrap it. Obviously you can unwrap it properly if it was a different object, but this is a nice simple unwrapped. And I'm going to create a new texture and I'm going to call it normals. Okay, normals test, and I'm going to create a new material for this object just here. So, and there's my new material, and add a texture, add texture, image texture, just there, and there's my normal test. I'll grab that. So make sure you have this selected because this is where your image will be baked to. Right, now I'm ready to bake. So let's go back into object mode. You select the one you're baking from and the one you're baking to last. And you can actually have multiple objects. So you can select a couple of objects as long as you select the one you're baking to last. And make sure this image texture is selected here. In fact, let's save it now. File, save as. I'll just chuck it on my desktop. Normals test on my desktop. There we go. Then you go to the render panel just here. And right down at the bottom, I suppose we can use GPU render. Right down at the bottom, it makes it faster of course, is the bake panel, and at the moment it's set to combined. I'm going to change that to normals, and also I'm going to select selected, this is selected, to active, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going from this one to this one, and this is quite important, the ray distance. I'd always put that up to 1, I've never had any problems it not being at 1. So just pull that up, that's supposed to be the distance between them. And really I suppose I can go quite close actually, so I'll just go back down there, go pretty close, then less chance of errors. So select that one, and now I can press bake. And here it is happening. And if you want to increase the resolution, you increase your samples down here, your render samples, in the render tab, render sampling. Okay, so there's my normal map. So I can now hide this one, and I want to apply that normal map to here. So all I do, come into my node editor, Shift A, and I'm adding a vector and a normal map. Okay, so it's in there, and let's add the color to the color, the blue normal to the blue normal, and one thing I've got to change is non-color data, or data, or data, depending on how you pronounce it. Now this should, when I go into Shift Z to render mode, I'm just going to bring the light down so we can see it better. Let's bring that across. When I go into render mode with Shift Z, we should be able to see the normal. But we can't see the normal. That is because I have not saved my image here. Save as. And it's saved. Come out of Shift Z, render mode, back Shift Z, there it is. Okay, I'll just quickly grab the light. So there's the light. So make sure it's selected. Shift Z, and if I press G to grab my light and move around, you should be able to see the shadows move as well. That's because it's calculating the normal map. So that's how you set up your normal map. Hope that helped.